I call the honourable member Tracy Martin.
Kia ora, Mr Speaker. Kia ora. Thank you very much. Mr Speaker, I rise on behalf of New Zealand First to address the current legislation, the legislation in front of us. New Zealand First supported this legislation when it was first introduced in 2003, and New Zealand First again supported the Act's retention in 2008. But at the first reading of this amendment bill, we recognised that the cinema community had, to a certain extent, reinvented itself in many areas to once again to be able to market themselves, as they once did, as an experience, not just a place to go and watch a film, but as a full experience to the consumer. And so we were concerned that the industry might not need the protections that are outlined in front of the bill in front of us. At the same time, we also acknowledge that many of those inside the industry, as had been mentioned by previous speakers, had made significant inroads into the evolution of the digital delivery. Matakana Cinemas and the Te Awamutu Regent Theatre, theatres such as those that had made significant financial investments into more up-to-date screens and projection equipment, again to enhance the experience. But we were somewhat conflicted.
Order.
We were somewhat conflicted because at the same time, New Zealand First expressed its concern for the New Zealand film exhibitors and the approximately 10,000 New Zealanders directly employed inside this industry. Last night we heard that there was a possibility of 163 to 165 jobs to be lost should this extension not be left in place. However, it is recorded that there are approximately 10,000 New Zealanders currently employed inside this industry directly, and another 21,000 New Zealanders are affected or could be affected indirectly by the possibility that this extension did not take place. And just to address the word ban that is part of this legislation, it's interesting how language can change up the pros and cons of an argument, sir. If we were perhaps to be talking about this as a delayed release as opposed to a ban, I wonder how people's positions might have changed at the beginning of the conversation. But we go back to the fact that we expressed concern about the negative impact that the removal of such a staggered protection could affect those 10,000 New Zealanders. And we had particular concern for rural cinema operators and their employees, as all too often we in New Zealand First find that urban arguments and urban solutions are foisted upon our rural communities, often with a detrimental effect. It was due to these conflicting concerns that at first reading New Zealand First withheld its judgment and we abstained from the vote. Since that time, even though we have not had a member on the Commerce Committee that considered and listened to the submissions, since that time we have followed the progress of the committee, we've read the submissions and the report of that committee back to this House. What has become clear to us is that this is an evolution, not a revolution. This is a situation that needed to develop, and that it was important that this particular industry was given that opportunity to do so. The financial investment required to step all cinemas up to this digital technology, particularly those in rural New Zealand, is very significant. And we feel that it is appropriate to give this final extension, particularly again because as we often talk about, we are and have been in a recession, so that it is appropriate to give this final extension to these operators to transition through their equipment and their business plans. I just want to touch slightly upon the minority view placed on record by the Labour and the Green parties, and I quote from the Labour minority view in the first instance. It says the Labour Party is concerned that if the public cannot legally obtain material in a timely manner through DVDs, subscription TV or online streaming, that they become sceptical of copyright law and use illicit channels. The Green Party also makes mention that in their opposition to this bill, that the suggestion is that if this extension, this delayed release was to remain, that, and I now quote, it encourages illegal file sharing in the absence of legal alternatives. New Zealand First finds that a very long bow to draw, that should these delayed protections remain in place, that we will be driving New Zealanders to illegal acts. Where there is such a thing as delayed gratification, sir, if you have to wait, and let's remember, it is a 5-month delay period we're talking about here from the international, the worldwide release date of a major motion picture. That means if it is released in California, 5 months from that day, you can buy it on the store, on the DVD shelf. That is not a great hardship. It is a film. I think this is a first world problem if people are concerned about not being able to buy their DVD the day after a major release, sir. So we think that's a very long bow to have been placed inside the minority reports. But, Mr. Speaker, without taking up too much more time, because this is a bill that needs to go through this House before the 31st of October, this will be the last time it goes through this House. We have no doubt of that. The industry does need to take note. This is very, very likely to be the final extension for the industry. The time to step up has come. They must transition through. But New Zealand First will be supporting this bill through the House.
Thank you. I call the